Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ambert, and I'm going to be your host for the next 45 minutes for this webinar, which is part of Smarter Working Live 2023. During February, we're hosting 10 days of these bite-sized webinars, followed by our conference day on the 1st of March. And you can head over to smarterworkinglive.com to find out more and to sign up to any of our events. They're all free and they're all open to anyone in the public sector who's interested in smarter working. So please help us spread the word. Do you have a colleague, a friend who you think might be interested? Please pass on the details. It's, as we mentioned, all events are free for anyone in the public sector. So on to this morning's event. We are so pleased that you've decided to spend some time with us today. And the purpose of this event and all of our events of Smarter Working Live is to inform and inspire you. I work at the Government Property Agency, and we are proud to be the natural home of smarter working across government. And we are all about creating great places for our people to work so that they can deliver great outcomes, which is what smarter working is all about. And in the course of our work, we're so lucky because we get to see across the whole of government and the public sector and industry to see what are people thinking, what are people doing, what's the cutting edge of smarter working, of thought leadership. And Smarter Working Live is all about bringing all of that great knowledge and insight to all of you, sharing what we've learned, helping the public sector to build up its knowledge and experience in this, to give you lots of little gems and nuggets that you can take back to your workplace and make use of in what you're doing. So on to today's topic. It is one that's all about growing mighty oaks from tiny acorns. The small scale, big impact category in our Smarter Working Live Awards is always really hotly contested. And in the public sector, we often have to get really creative, don't we, about how we make low or no budget activities still deliver great outcomes for people. And one which we found absolutely vital for the Civil Services Smarter Working programme is harnessing the power of networks, finding those like-minded people across other government departments and organisations, pooling our collective knowledge and experience, giving each other a boost when things are getting tough and we've had a challenging setback, providing reassurance to others that you've been on that journey too, you know what it's like, and diving deep into topics which no one else in your organisation probably knows that much about, all with no other cost than people's time. So I have two absolutely wonderful panellists with me today to explore this topic, looking at how we can harness people power to really bring smarter working knowledge more widely out across your organisation. So firstly, we have Hannah Hiles, who up till yesterday was the Smarter Working Lead at the Department for International Trade, but of course today you are now the Department for Business and Trade. So welcome, Hannah. And she's a founder member of the Cross-Government Change Managers Working Group. The second panellist we have for this morning is Beth, Farminer, and she is no stranger to Smarter Working Live. She's been so generous with her time before at previous events, so thank you, Beth. You are the Continuous Improvement Lead for the water regulator, Ofwat, and you're also a founder member of the Cross-Government Continuous Improvement Network. So welcome to both of you. And in a minute, I'm going to start the conversation going. But first of all, I just want to invite all of you watching to get involved, because for about the first half an hour or so of this session, I'm going to be asking my questions to the panel, but then it's over to you. So what would you like to know? What challenges are you facing in this area that maybe our panel might be able to give you a few tips or advice about? What could help you with some concerns or issues that you're having in your organisation? What inspiration are you looking for from us that we can help you with? You can type your questions in the chat box and then we'll do our best to answer them this morning. So you can make use of that at any time. I can't promise we'll be able to answer every single question, but we will do our absolute best and we'll try and follow up if there's something specific that you want to know. So time to get underway. So welcome, Hannah, welcome, Beth. The reason I know you both is because actually you're also part of the Smarter Working practitioner group, which the Government Property Agency hosts. So that was how I first came across you. And we'll be talking about that, I'm sure. But today I'm also interested to know about the networks that you've set up and running across government. So Beth, first of all, if I could start with you, tell us a bit about the Continuous Improvement Network for government.
So a few years ago, a group got together to create a platform, a space, a network for continuous improvement leads across government to get together. And this would allow us to solve similar challenges. It would allow us to post training that we're doing and post events and just use those networks to come together and to help each other out across all different departments. And it wasn't something that we'd had before. So ours was specifically for continuous improvement in government and bringing people together via that platform.
And in terms of identifying those people, it's not typically a sort of profession or anything where people would be able to sort of easily identify each other necessarily. So how did you even go about finding all of these people?
Exactly, yes. We wanted to be a profession, and that is something that we will work towards via the network. And we started with just a small group of people really passionate, really cared about finding leads from each of the organisations. Reaching out through Smarter Working as well has been a key reference point for us, because Smarter Working has the established network, and we can ask them to get in touch with their leads, put them in touch with us, and grow the network through your network. So that worked really well. And then we reached out for sponsors as well, but probably something will come up a couple of times today. The sponsors, how they can help spread the word, how they can find more people and help grow the network.
Thank you, Beth. And Hannah, as I mentioned, you are one of the original founders of the Change Managers Working Group. So tell us about this group and what you've been involved in with them.
Thanks, Anne. Yes, so I wasn't one of the original ones. I was one of the original members. But yes, it was started in June 2020. And it was by a colleague who's still one of the facilitators, Gintare, when she worked in the MOD. And it was really, there were a number of aspects, not dissimilar to Beth's network, about professionalising change, like project delivery is recognised as a profession. So there's that aim. There's also about the sharing of the tools and the methodologies, and to prevent people from reinventing the wheel, because someone's probably done it already in government. So yeah, it started small and it grew. I joined in my previous department, but when I joined the Department for International Trade, Gintare had already moved there, and I asked if I could join the group of facilitators. And yeah, we've now got 170 members, well, just over 170 members across 43 government departments and public sector organisations. So in the past year, we have expanded at a rate of knots. And yeah, it's a really thriving community, but it's basically anyone involved in change. So you don't need you don't have to be a change manager. It could be that, you know, sort of like you have an interest in change, or change is part of your role, but it's not a defined part of your job title. So yeah, it's a really thriving community.
Thank you, Hannah. So that was a great introduction, and probably one of the challenges we found most tricky in our Smarter Working practitioner group is the fact that there isn't an easy way of everybody in the public sector talking to each other. Really basic, fundamental, it sounds like, but actually we spent a lot of time grappling with that and trying to think about how can we provide somewhere where people can communicate and collaborate and connect. So Beth, I know you've been involved with that for your continuous improvement network. So what are your thoughts on platforms for collaboration, and any tips you can give people who are bashing their head against the wall going, I haven't got any tech that works for everybody?
Sure. So that was my role. I was able to join this amazing steering group that had been set up for the CI community of practice, and I could join because of my role in Smarter Working. Smarter Working uses Basecamp to speak to other people. It's an online platform where you can chat around the campfire, you can ask questions, you can start specific threads, and you can really use this internet platform to have real conversations and share your experience. You can upload documents as well. So if I'm running training, like Hannah said, someone else can just download my training pack and it'll have the notes on there, so they can benefit from that without having to start a training from scratch. So I saw Basecamp through being a Smarter Working practitioner. I saw it working, I saw it thriving. People were solving real challenges together, and they were bringing the right people into the conversation. So I mentioned and demonstrated Basecamp to the Steerco or the CI leads that I looked up to, and I thought this could be a way that I could contribute to the network. So we set up a Basecamp with the GPA's help for continuous improvement. Now 2 years on, we've moved on to Knowledge Hub, K-Hub, just so we can have that wider range and reach more and more people. So we went from about 20 practitioners in 2020, like Hannah, and now we've got 150 CI leads from 50 different government departments and public bodies, NHS, police. So we've got a really wide reach now thanks to the platform. And what K-Hub does is, if I'm facing something, I'm facing a particular challenge, you just know another department's going to be working on that too. We've seen it all across smart working. There's common themes: return to the office, working from home kit. All of these things is you share your experience on Basecamp, on Knowledge Hub, and other people can benefit.
And that kind of that, I'm really interested in that idea you mentioned about that kind of conversation happening. So kind of in terms of helping people feel comfortable to share their concerns, or kind of think, how do I put this so that it, other people will respond and share in the same spirit. Kind of has the platform helped with that, do you think?
I think because there is that document site, you can share that way. If it was just a live chat, it would be quite restrictive. But I can upload, I can say this is what I've been working on, and then if we need to, we can have a big conversation, or we can book a meeting. But we can have that back and forth, because we can share documents and both be looking at the same thing. Even if it's better now with MS Teams, but even like last year, maybe we weren't on the same platform and I couldn't speak to DFE or HMRC because we're on different tech. But this one location, one site, just means we can collaborate actively, live. We can take it offline and have a chat between two of us if we've got some ideas. But you find the people that are interested via the platform.
Thanks, Beth. Hannah, if I can kind of thinking about that, and both of you have talked about how rapidly your networks have grown. So kind of just again, some more practical questions probably about like, how on earth do you coordinate such a large number of people across government and the public sector? What are the challenges involved in that?
So yes, the technology has been a big thing. We also use Knowledge Hub and absolutely find it key to having a central point where people can go to. But I would say my biggest challenge is the amount of admin, only because you do it on top of your day job, because it's something you know is important, and so I work in a department that's really, really supportive of it, but it is over and above your day job. So and with the limitations around tech, ultimately it is still managed through a single inbox, which is held in my department, so a few of us manage that, and managing a membership list of like over 170 people in Outlook can have its challenges, because it's changing constantly. You send out a meeting invite and loads of people have moved departments because the civil service, people move around a lot. So that is quite challenging to keep on top of things. But on the flip side of that, I would say people who join networks like this is because they're passionate about it, and they will forgive you not sending out an email on time and things like that. So that can be one of the biggest challenges. And I would say sometimes it's not something we've experienced yet, really, but when you have a group of people organising a group, and sort of they'll decide what you're going to discuss next time. I'm sure you had this with the Smart Working Practitioners group. Sometimes it's the next agenda item or next meeting. What are we going to talk about? And it's encouraging members to sort of take a bit of ownership. Luckily, with change managers, we don't really have that problem. But it could be a problem if you were creating a network where maybe people were new to it and maybe didn't have that confidence.
Thank you, Hannah. And as we're talking about these groups, we're having a couple of questions in the chat from people clearly not members yet. So we've got an opportunity to recruit some more people. So asking how do we find them first, and how do we join them? So I can probably start with that, which was to say we're talking about 3 different networks here, and any of you who are watching are welcome to join any of those 3 of them if you've got an interest in those topics, I think. So the whole idea is they are very open. We don't have any set criteria of, professional entries or anything like that. It's if you've got an interest in the topic, isn't it? That spirit. So for our Smarter Working practitioner group, I will be popping something in the chat for you to follow up and see if you'd like to join that. As we mentioned, that's open to anyone in the public sector interested in any themes around smarter working. So Beth, if I come to you, so how can people join your continuous improvement network?
Yes, so you can type in the continuous improvement community of practice into Knowledge Hub, and it will give you a form to request. And that's to join if you are a CI lead, a CI practitioner, if CI is part of your main role. And then in the next couple of weeks, actually, we're launching the community of interest. And that's for anybody, like you say, anybody interested in CI. That'll be a different kind of feel from the practitioners group, because there you can go to learn about CI and grow your knowledge and skill base. So everyone's welcome to my email, beth.farminer@ofwat.gov.uk, or you can contact us via the GPA inbox that will be shared at the end of today's call.
Thank you, Beth. So I think that's an important point, isn't it? Distinction between there's probably a group, you realise there's a group of people who are dedicated to this in their role, but there's also room for a space where people are interested in the topic and want to learn. I think that sounds like a really exciting development. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But Hannah, just want to ask you the same question. How can people join your group?
So much the same way. If you go, I would recommend signing up to Knowledge Hub anyway, if you're in the public sector, because there are loads of communities on there. But on Knowledge Hub, if you type in cross-government change managers working group, and like with Beth's group, it'll send through a request to join the group, and then we can make contact and give you all the other details. Or via Anne's emails, sort of like through the GPA. I won't read out our email address because it's just lots of letters and it's a bit confusing. But
and it's likely to be different, probably fairly
well,
soon.
yes,
You're now in the department compared to what you were yesterday.
Yeah. But yes, sorry, just saying, anyone who has an interest in change. So it's very much a hands-on change practitioners group. So people who want to talk about change, but it doesn't necessarily, like I said earlier, you don't necessarily need change in your job title, but everyone's involved in change in some way, shape or form. So anyone's welcome.
Thank you both. Just a reminder that we would love your questions this morning. So please do keep using that chat box to send in your questions for us on the panel. I'm going to keep asking a few more questions though, because I'm being greedy. I'm hogging the microphone while I have it to ask you, because I think probably we've talked a lot about quite a lot of the sort of practical bits and pieces of getting them set up, that sense of collaboration, that sense of people sharing knowledge and things with each other. For both of you personally, though, I'm kind of interested first. Beth, I'll come to you personally. What's the benefit of being involved with your network? How have you found it helped you in your work?
So right from the start, I've been able to work with an unbelievable amount of mentors from the steering group, and just the approachableness, because these people have almost volunteered. So it's not it's not like you're asking people to get involved. They're already there and they're there to help you, and they're really keen to make this community work. So for me, the DEFRA CI leads, Michelle Owens, HMRC, these are people that started this group, and I can really learn from them. And just through the network, I've been able to travel around the country and visit sites. So to actually visit for smart working as well, that makes a huge difference, to see what people are doing in person, to talk to people, to visit different offices. I'm an assessor for smarter working as well, so it just gives this amazing opportunity to see what people are doing and get involved. Continuous improvement is always best live. It's post-its and it's mapping and it's fun stuff. So I've had that chance to meet people through the network and just learn from them, and hopefully share my skills with them as well, and hash out ideas and solve challenges together.
Thank you, Beth. That sounds like a real practical value to you, and kind of giving you lots of inspiration and ideas, and kind of probably validating the way you approach things where you work. So I think that's often a common concern for people, isn't it? It's thinking, am I doing things out of step with everyone else? What's everyone else doing on this topic. Have you found that too, Hannah?
Absolutely. I would say ditto to everything Beth said. I too have done some smart working assessments and yeah, going to sites and seeing people, you know, sort of like from the other side definitely helps. Yeah, everything Beth said really is the sharing like ideas and it's having that single common goal. So like change, professionalisation, you know, everyone feels very strongly about it. Everyone feels very passionate about having defined career pathways and things like this. And by bringing everyone together, we're actually creating this snowball effect where, you know, sort of like there's more and more interest in it. And, you know, we're going to do this. And so, yeah, I think it's quite exciting as well being part of it. So and also on the other side of things, it's a great sort of like networking opportunity because with wider government, it's getting to meet people in other departments that maybe you wouldn't have dealt with in your day-to-day job, and finding out a bit more about them. But then there's this like cross-pollination of ideas and things like that. So yeah, it's just a really nice thing to be part of. I think it's really
it makes
helpful.
it good, doesn't it?
Brilliant. And then, sorry, Beth.
Sorry, I was just going to say, finding people that think like you, and that's the power of networks, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, do you find strength then in feeling like you're not the lone voice who thinks the way that you do, that actually there's lots of other people probably looking at the same challenges, having the same organisation kind of cultural and behaviour sort of conversations around how do we encourage people to think differently, or how are we going to approach this change, or how can we encourage the spirit of continuous improvement? That kind of is probably a common theme across every organisation, isn't it? But there's not a huge resource normally in each organisation to support those activities. So have you found that has that helped you think about how you can demonstrate the value of your networks kind of outwardly, and kind of make your case more for the power of the network to bring all of those professional skills together? Beth, do you think that's something that you've seen? Obviously, you've got a steering group who've got an interest in that, but kind of have you been able to use your network to demonstrate that value more widely, do you think?
If you look at smart working, change management, and continuous improvement, it is about constant change. And when you talk to people about change, they're like, who wants to change? Nobody. So all three of these topics are influencing skills, their collaboration, their sponsorship, they're getting people engaged, and you can't do it without the people. So all three of ours are kind of so closely related, and they don't work without the other one. So I think for change management, continuous improvement is change management also. So I think for all of our topics, if you can get buy-in, if you can get people to care about the topic, then that's the power. That's where it really starts rolling.
Thank you. And Hannah, you mentioned obviously that you're trying to sort of increase the focus on the professionalism of something that hasn't traditionally been seen as that. Has the network been able to help with that, to help people feel like actually there are other people looking at this topic and who also, you know, are looking at the value it can add to an organisation?
Definitely. I mean, change management, it feels like change management has kind of established itself a bit more than where it used to be, where it was just a nice to have. So it's evolved, and I think a lot more departments and organisations are acknowledging the fact that they need sort of change management. But yeah, it's that career progression. It's that knowing what's next. How can I sort of like further my career? And yeah, having this group and us focusing our attention on the professionalisation side of it will sort of like enhance the way people view it as being somewhere, you know, as a career that they can actually choose and go, do you know what? And like Beth said, continuous improvement. I mean, everything changes all the time, and it's never going to stop changing. So at some point, we need to say, it's not change, it's just continuous improvement. It's, you know, it's not a thing. It's this is how we work. Much like smarter working, it's a way of working. You know, it's so it's that evolution. And I think having this network, or having networks, where everyone's sort of like coming from common ground, so everyone understands what everyone else means, and we're all supporting each other. And I think that's where the real strength comes from. And the other thing is we're just establishing a mentoring network in it. So, so if you also get that, and we're trying to pair people up across different departments. So you get that cross-pollination, the networking side of things, understanding how different departments work. Once again, helps the whole civil service approach to, being very modern and being able to move around and things like that. So, I mean, I can only see benefits in these networks and the values that they add.
Thank you. And I mentioned at the beginning of this session that the reason I know you both is because for the GPA's Smarter Working Programme, which was set up 5 years ago to kind of help the whole of government to reach smarter working maturity, 41 different departments, quite an ambitious aim to try and get everybody across government reaching the same standard on something. I think we figured out really early on that getting all the departments together to share was going to be absolutely vital for this. So I just want to shout out to my wonderful team who've been supporting that really safe and really vibrant smarter working practitioner community over that time, because it started from a civil service only, very much focused on the programme and those 41 departments and helping them achieve maturity, which is where both of you have got involved. But it's now grown into a pan public sector network, and it's similar to with yours, kind of growing all the time. And I was just interested to know, what have you learned from being part of that group, and how has that shaped your thinking around your own network? So Beth, what you've been involved from the very early days of the Smarter Working Programme, kind of how has being part of that community and kind of feeling that trust and feeling that ability to talk frankly with people who you've never met before somewhere else in the public sector, how has that shaped your thinking?
I think you mentioned safe, so to build that safe space where you can say anything, ask anything, and nothing's crazy. You don't have to have a particular aim in your conversation, but you can have these discussions openly with people, and you can find out what they do, what they're working on. You can bring that back to your organisation. But also for me, it's the stories. I can teach a classroom and I can tell them everything I want to show them. But if you can get someone to tell the story of what they're doing, that means so much more, because it's real life. It's in the business. It's not a continuous improvement. It's not a car manufacturing site like in the 80s. It's real. It's government. It's now, and it's happening to the people. So if I can be the facilitator of people sharing their stories, that's where the most value add comes from. So I always tell people, no matter when they meet me afterwards, can you post something on Yammer? Can you take a photo? Can you just tell somebody what you did? Because your stories mean everything, and people can steal best practice from you. They can see what you're working on and try it for themselves, and that's how you grow.
Thank you, Beth. I love that idea of stories. That's really, like you said, that's what really brings it to life, isn't it? It helps people understand kind of the things that won't come across in a sort of, a set of PowerPoint slides or some data. It's that bringing out, and what does it mean for people? And I know, Hannah, you've been very generous in offering to host our Smarter Working Practitioner group at what was the Department for International Trade, now the Department for Business and Trades government hub site in London, which we sadly couldn't get to do last autumn because of complexities with trains and things. But things like that, obviously that was you being really generous, but I hope have you felt the same back in return? Has that learning applied to you as well?
Absolutely. And once again, I agree with everything Beth said. Yeah, it's that having that trust, isn't it? Where you've got that one common goal, and it's not about who you work for. It's what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve and what you're interested in, and what can I learn, and I think as soon as it gets to when it comes to networks, it's people with that genuine interest. So like with the Smarter Working Practitioners group, I think being part of that has given me a lot more confidence in the cross government change managers working group, because I've seen how that one's run, and it hasn't got to be all formal, and so it can be friendly, it can be chatty, we're all in this together sort of thing. So I do think that's helped. And the whole sort of like giving stories around sort of like particular things, absolutely, putting some context around. So we tend to meet every sort of 6 weeks or so in the cross-government change managers working group. And so we've had speakers where they've come along and talked about, so it maybe they talked about their change framework, which the change framework on its own can be quite dry unless you're a change geek. But then you get the context of the challenges they faced and how it was implemented, and the feedback that they got and what they learned, and then people in the network get the chance to ask questions and they learn. And so yeah, it's very much it's friendly. I think it's a nice safe environment.
Oh, well, I'm really pleased to hear that, and that's definitely something we try and instill in the network and how we run it. We try and make it kind of for the group, by the group, if you like, and we try and bring topics that are relevant to people, but also, as you say, working really hard. And I think that's something we'll come on to in a moment, probably just working really hard about trying to help people in the group feel like it is that safe and friendly space, that you don't have to put on a front, you don't have to pretend everything's wonderful. You can bring your challenges, you can bring the things that didn't work out quite as you planned, which obviously, Beth, your continuous improvement is a really big factor, isn't it? It's kind of understanding how things have worked and how they haven't worked. I said I would give time to the audience for your questions, so please do keep popping them in the chat. I've got one here from Catherine Hurren. Quite a big topic, this. We've got 10 minutes. We'll do our best to try and address it. Advice on how to improve change maturity within an organisation. So Hannah, I'll come to you first, and then Beth, I'll probably ask you the same for continuous improvement. You've got a couple of minutes to have a think first.
Wow, yes. So Catherine, I would recommend you join our group, because you're not the first person to ask this. And there are so many aspects. It would depend on the size of your organisation, their appetite for change management. Some organisations are sort of like further down the track than others. So where I work, we have lots and lots of change managers, and there's a lot of acknowledgement that change management has a positive impact on things. So and it's having an established framework, so how do we do change in our department? Once again, in the network, we're trying to create that single, this is how a government department or public sector body could do change. We'd never prescribe. We'd say, this is a whole sort of like plethora of tools that you can use, and you use the ones that suit you, but having sort of like a single acknowledged approach within your organisation, and so that everyone knows what they're doing. And also, I would mention about having career progression for change managers, having it, sort of like separate from project delivery. Project delivery have their career progression, they have their sort of like career outline, and change is different. And sort of like it really depends on your organization's adoption of change management. So, but yeah, massive question, and one that will always be asked, I think. So please do join our group. If you are interested in sort of like more information on that, because I think it's a bit too big to try and answer in this session.
Thank you, Hannah. So I was about to ask you a similar question, Beth, and something's just popped in the chat from Louise about top tips on how best to launch a CI culture, which is probably a kind of a different take on the same question. Talk about your journey in Ofwat for us. Where did you start? Because I know in your organisation it is something that you're really passionate. It isn't just something that sits within your team, but you want the whole organisation to feel that CI is important. So would you be able to talk us through a little bit about where you started and kind of any tips for Louise?
Yes, so just to follow on as well from what Hannah was saying, I would start with engagement and people, and you can download the Smart Working Toolkit as well, which is a great one. Get in touch with your Smarter Working practitioner, because change maturity, continuous improvement is about that engagement with people, finding out what people need. You can download team charters to agree how you're going to have these conversations, how you are going to manage change, what motivates people, what's going to help the team engage with the change, and you can have these conversations. Continuous improvement, the best place to start is also with people. Get people in a room, a blank wall with post-its or a virtual planner board, anything, and just say, simple question, really simple. What do you need from us? How can I help? Bit of nuance to down there. Just something to say to get the conversation started. Maybe you can look back and say, what's been great about the past month? And just have those conversations, because continuous improvement is finding out what people want, what they need. I always start with a question in my groups that's what if? What if you could change anything? So you could have better team conversations, you could have better one-to-ones, team meetings, just do them differently. Smarter working, what if? What if you could change the office environment? What would you implement? So what if is really powerful, just 2 words that can start conversation. You can change anything you want. Let's get it out there with the team. As long as you're having these open conversations and finding out what the team needs, what motivates them, what they'd like to change, that's just the start of any CI culture. But also, if you're interested in CI, join the network.
I knew you'd say that. And I think, again, really great, valuable lessons about starting with the people rather than starting with the process, isn't it? It's that sense of how do you engage people in this topic? How do you make them feel comfortable? How do you make them not get to thinking it's something that's not relevant to their job role? Because actually all the things we're talking about, all our networks, the reason I brought all 3 of us together today is because all 3 of us are working on things that impact everybody daily in their day-to-day work, aren't they? And that sense of it's not done somewhere else by some corporate entity. It's, the culture of the organisation is very much influenced by everyone. So kind of helping people feel empowered on that basis. And I'm glad you mentioned some of the tools in our Smarter Working toolkits, because they are very much designed with that in mind. So again, I will pop something in the chat in a minute. So if anyone's interested in those tools that Beth's mentioned, we can happily share them with you if you haven't seen them already. I'm conscious of time and we have a few minutes left for questions from the audience. I've got one more question I wanted to ask to you both while we see if there's anyone else wanting a question, which was if someone listening to this, they're listening to the session because they kind of think, oh, I really would like to have some more people to talk about my topic of interest, and I'm really inspired by what I've heard. If someone listening to this wanted to set up a cross-government community and you could give them one top tip, what would that be? Hannah, let's start with you.
So I think from a group that's grown quite significantly, I think it's just understand that the group will evolve. The more people you include in your group, it will change. And I think as long as the group continues to evolve and everyone takes part and everyone's encouraged to take part, then it'll still remain relevant and useful to its members. I think, if you start down a path and stick to it, it may not end up relevant for everyone because everything changes all the time. So yeah, I think it's just going in with this group will evolve, and sort of we'll ensure it evolves in the right way.
Thank you, Hannah. Beth, the same question for you. What do you think? Where would you start? What would be the one thing that you've learned through this process that you would use to help anyone else looking at creating a peer network?
I think for the collaboration, people are different and they need different ways to input into these networks. Even if you look at a meeting, people are different. They need the chat. They need to voice their opinions. They need to walk through things. So everybody's different. So I would give lots of different ways people can input into the network. Maybe it's their first venture into the topic and they do want to sit back and just join a conference or a learning event. So you can run some events like that. Maybe they learn by doing, like lots of us do, and they want something live and interactive to take part in. Or with the Smart Working, we do breakout groups and have those smaller conversations, so you're not facing 100 people. These drop-in sessions like today, there's the chat. You can get involved, you can ask things, but also you can just sit back and absorb. So I think giving people different opportunities to join in. But at the same time, I do have to say with the networks, if you're going to join throughout the whole network, you will have to at some stage jump in because you get out what you put into the network. So maybe step forward something that you're good at, something that maybe you're really good at organising or project management, or you can add a document or an interesting blog that you found. Just how can you contribute to the community? Because if we all do a little bit, then everybody gets a lot back.
I love that mindset, because I think that's it. It's people, as you said, some people might feel quite cautious at first, or feel like, what have I got to offer that's of value to the group? So that's definitely something we've learned with our practitioner community, is trying to think of lots of different ways for people to get involved that suits them. So not everyone will feel like an expert in something, but actually, as you said, we run breakout groups for that very reason. So people have got just a nice, comfortable, small group of people to talk to. And we accept a lot of people will do listening. But there always comes a point when we say we really need, people from the group to come and bring those stories to share, and trying to help people find easy ways of doing that. And that's probably an ongoing challenge for all of us, isn't it? It's kind of how do we make sure that, it's not seen to be steered by the people who've set up the group. Actually, it needs to be owned by the group as well. So I think we could probably fill a whole other session talking about that part, I think. But again, that would probably be something I would definitely have seen happen in practice, is that sense of that collective ownership being important for the group, and that people feel like Hannah's point was great, wasn't it? It's an ever evolving thing. The members will change, the work they're working on will change. So kind of setting up that group with that flexibility in mind to allow that to come in, I think will also help. I'm afraid we've run out of time for questions this morning. That time has absolutely whizzed by. So apologies if we didn't get, I think we've tried to cover all of the questions, and I will pop something in the chat in just a moment to tell you how you can contact us if you would like to join any of our networks, because we really would love to have more people come and join us, whether it's the Smarter Working Practitioner Group, the Change Managers Working Group, or the Continuous Improvement, either of Beth's groups, the one if you're interested or if you're a practitioner. All of those are open to all of you to come and join us. We would love to have you with us. I just want to say a huge thank you to Hannah and Beth for your time this morning, sharing all those great insights and that first-hand experience of kind of corralling people together, finding people who are like-minded and giving them a safe space to share and network and grow their talents. Has been really inspiring for me, just hearing about how much you can possibly do from something that, as I said at the beginning, doesn't cost any money. All it costs is some people's time and some commitment and some interest. I think that, to me, is that small scale, big impact, absolutely in practice, isn't it? It's that sense of, sometimes you can really impact people really positively from something quite small, just by having a conversation with someone somewhere else in a different organisation and feeling less alone. I think that's my lesson I'm going to take from this morning. And I hope you have found that too if you've joined us. I hope it's given you maybe a few new ideas to take back to your organisation, or inspired you to join one of our networks and continue that learning beyond today. This is a new style of format for us for Smarter Working Live. Again, like we said, we're always changing, we're always evolving, trying to meet people's needs. So these bite-sized webinars are new for us. So there's a really, really quick feedback poll. I promise it's really quick, but in the spirit of CI, can only improve if we know with your data how we're doing. So if you could spend 2 seconds giving us a bit of feedback about how you found these sessions, that would be great. And also, if you have not signed up for Smarter Working Live Conference Day on the 1st of March, there's so many treats in store for you, and we are embracing, again, lots of change in that. So you get to control the agenda. We want to make sure it's completely relevant to you. So you get to vote now on the topics you would like our speakers to talk about. We're going to be running a hackathon with some amazing stuff coming in that, and you get to choose the topics of the hackathon. What were the things that you would like us to talk about, and what challenges are you facing currently that you think you would really benefit from joining this hackathon and learning loads of practical tools and tips. So the Slido poll is open now for you to cast your vote. We're really excited, slightly nervous about leaving the agenda quite so fluid, but we're really loving the fact that lots of you are getting involved and casting your votes on that. So thank you if you've done that already, and if not, now is your chance. I do hope to see some more of you at our events over the course of the month, but I really hope that you've enjoyed this morning, you found it useful. And I just say a final thanks to Hannah and Beth for their time and their expertise this morning. So thank you so much for joining us for this Smarter Working Live 2023 webinar, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.